What's up, everybody? We got Sunday Night Football, another banger given to us on primetime by the NFL, Baltimore Ravens and Buffalo Bills. Me and JJ are going to go over everything you need to know and give you guys our plus 3,000 parlay at the end, so make sure you watch all the way through. Welcome back in, everybody. Let's get excited. JJ, how are we doing, man?
We're doing great. It's Sunday. We got football. Like, what else is there to be excited about? This is life right here.
Dude, every day we're just counting, or every week we're counting the days until Sunday, and then we get to wrap it all
Yeah.
up with a game like this on Sunday Night Football. It does not get much better than that.
Yeah, this is a matchup I've been waiting for. Bills, Ravens. Bills have been playing very well. Ravens' run defense has been impeccable. It's just like, who's actually going to give out? Who's actually going to fold in the clutch? I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, we'll get into it a little bit more, but a lot of people know I'm a closet Ravens fan, mostly because of Lamar Jackson. I'm from the Bills, so got to support my guy. And I also think the Bills are good, but they're getting a tad overrated. So I think this game is going to be very telling. It's either going to
Yeah.
expose me and make me look
Or
like
even
an
just the
idiot,
next
or I'm
couple
gonna
weeks in general.
exactly. So let's get into it. So we're going to start with the Baltimore offensive side. We're going to start with passing the ball. The biggest thing you need to know is that the Bills run a lot of zone coverage, and we're shortly through the season, but we can go back and look at last season as well. And one of the things you'll notice is against zone coverage, Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews are the guys. Against man coverage, Rashad Bateman, that's kind of when he shows himself, especially being a lot better so far this season. His zone numbers have improved this season, but still with his role in the offense and kind of how they use him. When you see man coverage, you think Rashad Bateman. When you think zone coverage, you think Zay Flowers. Outside of that, I know you got some other stuff to share, JJ.
Yeah, so basically with the Bills, they're pretty much a too high look or middle of the field open. I know like too high, single high is like the new buzzwords nowadays, but if you want to be more like correct, it's gonna be middle of the field open or middle of the field closed. Middle of the field open is too high, basically. Middle of the field closed is one high. So they're middle of the field open. Bills blitz at the second lowest rate in the league. So the Bills bring in pressure at like an 18th in the league. It's not very well. It's not very good. Their run defense has like done a very good job, but blitzing at the second lowest rate, like that's going to give Lamar a lot of time back there. I think that should be able to target Mark Andrews a lot. He hasn't been the guy that we all wanted to be for fantasy. That doesn't look good for my season long prop of over 6.5 touchdowns right now. Not gonna lie, but that's all right. This is gonna be the time for him to bounce back because typically the Bills they give up a lot across the middle and like tight ends they have struggled against a little bit, but also mainly guys in the slot. Guys in the slot is the one you want to target, and for whatever reason, Mark Andrews has run the most slot routes this year for them. Isaiah Likely, you would think like, oh, you look at the stats, middle of the field open, a lot of his production has come from there, but all of that pretty much came in week one. Ever since then, he hasn't really done much. His role is kind of like fizzled out a little bit, but both of these two tight ends are going to be very valuable tonight. But I think Mark Andrews is going to be the go-to guy here.
Yeah, there's been some stats floating around that he's been blocking more in passing sets than previous years, but some of that was week one, he was getting doubled a lot. Week two, he was blocking a little bit more. And then week three, it was just, there wasn't anything crazy to note. But the one big thing to know is Isaiah Likely's route share is going down. I think it was like 80 something percent week one, went down to 50% week two. So we see Likely's snap rate going down, but Mark Andrews staying the same. We're only 3 weeks into the season. Everybody loves to overreact at this point. So I don't think it's far-fetched to say that a seasoned vet like Mark Andrews, we know what he can do, and we know what this matchup is. I love the idea of a bounce back here. We've talked pretty much every week. I think, have the Bills had a week without a primetime game? Or week one, they didn't have primetime, and I think 2 and 3 they did.
Yep, you're correct.
If you watch either of those two videos that we made, we talked about how Matt Milano being injured is one of the biggest reasons the Bills will struggle more through the middle of the field than anywhere else. So slot receivers and tight ends are always going to be the ones to take advantage of that. And if, like JJ's saying, Mark Andrews is taking the most snaps from the slot and tight ends have been doing well against Buffalo, it makes a lot of sense for Mark Andrews to do well here. Let's get to the run game.
Let's get to it. And as simple as it is, the Ravens' run defense is very good. They are allowing the 5th fewest explosive rush percentage, which is runs that go for 15 plus yards, the highest stuff rate, fewest yards after contact per attempt, and 5th fewest yards before contact per attempt. They're just flat out good, right? I didn't really need to say much there. Bills, on the other hand, they are allowing the 7th highest explosive rush percentage, 5th fewest yards after contact, and 9th most yards before contact. Those yards before contact can be very important because, as we said earlier, the Ravens are missing one of their top offensive linemen. I think left guard
One of the guards.
Voorhees. Yeah. So Voorhees is out. That could affect the rush game right there, especially with Derrick Henry. We'll see how it plays out, but not being able to get those yards before contact could be very important considering they're stopping people after contact. Both are pretty much man gap scheme, but I would say the Bills are more 50-50 with it. There's only like a 4 carry difference between man gap and zone scheme, so it doesn't really matter there, but Ravens are going to be good regardless, stopping the run. So I think Bills are going to have to rely on the pass more in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And ever since the new offensive coordinator came in, I think it was week 10 last year, there's been a very clear emphasis on hammering the run game, specifically with James Cook. And I think this matchup is going to make it something that's very hard to do. So I think they're going to have to get creative, either using him in an extension of the run game with designed screens and stuff, or getting Josh Allen involved more in the run game with options and stuff like that. I think either one's a good idea, but I don't think you can just say, hey, we're just going to give the ball to James Cook 18 times again, and hopefully he goes for 80 yards. Because, like JJ's saying, not the matchup for this. On the Baltimore side, it's just like their defense. Just like not many teams can run on their defense, not many teams can stop their run offense. They pound it through in between the tackles very well. Yes, they do have some injuries, but we are also talking about Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and Justice Hill has been performing very well so far this season in his limited rush share. So knowing that and knowing the scheme Harbaugh operates in and how much he loves to have the run game be his identity, you almost have to expect, okay, the Bills haven't really gotten any pressure on their run defense yet. This could be a game where they finally do it, and I think we'll learn a lot about the run defense. But I have more belief in the Baltimore run offense than the Buffalo run defense right now. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that's definitely fair to say for sure.
All right, should we get to the Buffalo pass offense to wrap it up, or we got more?
No, let's get to the pass offense.
All right,
what you got for us?
So we already said that they're probably going to have some issues in attacking the run, but in the pass game, things probably open up a little bit more. We have Dalton Kincaid really hasn't exploded onto the scene yet. There's been some success against the Ravens with opposing tight ends, so this could be the game we see it. Khalil Shakir is currently, I think, 1 or 2 catches away from the most consecutive targets with the reception, only behind Michael Thomas right now. So I don't know if there's a sports book that has Khalil Shakir to catch his first target, but if there is, that's something fun to sweat out. We had Keon Coleman last game, almost got no snaps because apparently the coaches are punishing him for what sounded like him being late to either warm-ups or something else important. So that was kind of his punishment as a first-year player. And then, am I missing anybody else to go over in that pass game?
Nothing I really want to talk about. It's like,
yeah, Curtis Samuel again didn't get much work, which surprised a lot of people from before the season. Everybody thought he'd be more involved. But yeah, Matt Collins got 1 catch for 16 yards last game. That was it.
That's just how it's going to be for right now until they get into more like losing game scripts, which from what it looks like, I don't think it's going to happen very often. I think that's when we'll see a little bit of change with like the gadget guys and all that. So
yeah,
there's not much.
I mean, it's tough too because like Khalil Shakir is a good player. Dalton Kincaid's a good player. Dawson Knox is a good player that's never going to be that big of a receiving weapon. And Keon Coleman, they put a decent amount of draft capital in. He has some promise. They don't really have another X receiver on the roster. So they don't have that star. Like, they lost Stephon Diggs. They didn't really have another receiver coming in to replace his pedigree. But they also don't really have anybody else where it's like, oh, yeah, here's another sleeper that you guys haven't seen yet coming out of the woodwork. Because that's what Khalil Shakir was. And now everybody kind of knows who he is because he's been playing so well. And I think right now their pass game, we kind of know what it is. And I think what's nice about it is the Ravens also know what it is for the Ravens'
Yes.
sake. Their coach talked about this season, this idea of organized chaos, and everybody thought that they were going to be blitzing more. But per FTN, their blitz rate is pretty much league average. Their pressure rate is pretty much league average. And I could be wrong about this one, but I think their sack rate is pretty much league average as well. So that hasn't really shown itself yet. But, I mean, there's no edge from a pressure perspective. But, JJ, I don't know what you have for coverages, but just thinking in terms of what the role of each player is on their team, I don't think there's anything sharp to share. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty much pretty straightforward. I don't know where else you could like really break down within it. It's just they do their job and they just have executed well enough to get where they're at right now.
All right, so we've seen the data. We know like 80% of you guys just skip to the end to see this parlay, and this is what you skip for. Here's the parlay we're riding out. We're going tight end day. Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, both of them are getting 4 receptions. Both of them are getting a touchdown. With the 50% boost on FanDuel for this SGP, we get plus 3,200. This should not be plus 3,200. Even before the boost, this should not be plus 2,200. JJ, I told you before we started recording, this should be like plus 1,300. I cannot believe we're getting these odds for these two studs.
And in my opinion, it's just the recency bias right now. I think that's the only thing that's been taking the odds down.
Hey, and that's what we love. That's what we love. When you're sharps, you want to say, hey, when everybody else finally gives up, we know when it's worth it to jump on that value, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Whether this hits or not, I have full confidence that this was a good value play in the end. So just lock this in. We'll have some nice fun on Sunday Night Football. And if this hits, you're going to be pissed that you saw this and you didn't lock it in. So go ahead and lock it in. And we'll see you guys on the next show. JJ, appreciate you guys. As always, appreciate everybody. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you guys on the Monday Night Football video.